Well, thank you, Christian. Before I introduce David, I just want to make sure you're aware of the other members of the Winnie family. Nicole Berlucci, who's behind the event over here. The guy who runs it all, Steve Hennon, right over there. Suzanne Diamond sitting next to Steve, who teaches the undergrad course and coordinates a lot of the undergrad activities. Ellie Feit, our research director. You want to crunch some numbers and do all that kind of stuff. She's the person to talk to. And some of the members of the extended Winnie family. I'm delighted to point Ethan Prater, Wharton alum, from way back when. He's still mad at me because I promised his now wife that I would get John Bon Jovi for their engagement party. He's forgiven me and has been a great supporter. So a lot of interesting people to talk to, but not more interesting than Christian and David Pakman. David's been one of my heroes for a long, long time. People don't realize that the birth of digital music was here in Philadelphia. That the first two meaningful firms that were providing that were both born here. I wonder if you can name either of them. One of them was CD Now. The other was Music Boulevard. And David cut his teeth there. And then Newton became my hero because back in the glorious summer of 2000, when I was helping Napster fight the bad guys, he was working on a wonderful startup that I had no idea was his brainchild, a company called MyPlay that today seems positively quaint, a digital music locker where you could basically store all your MP3 files. It's so common today. Back in the year 2000, it was truly radical, so radical that those same meanies who shut down Napster caused David to move on.
No, they bought it.
Yeah, true. But there's one way of shutting things down. And then David became the CEO of eMusic, which was, perhaps still is, the second largest, third, but just really a digital music company that set the stage for sharing and learning and a lot of things that, you look at a Spotify or Pandora and so on, that they owe a lot to what eMusic was able to do on its own, more than they owed it to, say, iTunes. But along the way, he also was the guy who started the first digital music service at Apple before iTunes. So you talk about a visionary. He's moved on from eMusic to Venrock. Imagine this, talk about visionary. Imagine investing in Intel in 1969. Imagine investing in Apple in 1978. David didn't do either of those things. But his company, Venrock, did, where he's a partner and oversees a lot of the different media-oriented investments that they make. You want to hear more from him than me? David Pakman.
I was hoping that I would end up disagreeing immensely with everything Christian said, and things can get a little spicy, but I don't disagree. I think typical of Facebook, they completely understand the future of media. They're charting that course, and I think they're taking us to a place that is somewhat natural for us, but the other internet giants weren't taking us there. But I would like to expand on it because I think I think we can go a little deeper. I think there's a few other trends in addition to social that are meaningfully influencing the future of media and disrupting a lot of the incumbents in the space. I was pretty proud of my presentation when I finished it last night, feeling like I'm really going to give you guys some interesting things to think about. And then I looked at it again on the train today, and I realized it's probably 100% patently obvious to you guys. So I apologize up front that you're probably going to know everything I'm about to tell you. First, just 2 seconds on Venrock. So Venrock is a venture capital firm that's been around for about 40 years. It's one of the oldest venture capital firms. It was originally started by Morris Rockefeller, hence the Rock name, in 1939, and it became, in 69, it became an entity known as Venrock. It's staffed largely by ex-entrepreneurs. That's generally the type of partners we hire there. And the logos at the top are some of the companies that were either founded by or early employees by some of the people who are now partners at Venrock. The bottom logos here are just a few of the companies we've invested in over the last 4 decades. I will tell you about some of the newer ones, but you should recognize pretty much every one of those names, I hope. So just some stats to remind you kind of where we are. 1.4 billion PCs connected to the net. Now, that's a pretty interesting stat. About 1/6 of the world. You could look at it half full, half empty. There's a huge number of people who will be connected to the net who aren't yet, but they're not all going to use PCs. because by 2011, 1 billion mobile devices will be connected to the net. And what's so fascinating about that is the rate that's happening. The mobile adoption and connectivity of the net, largely due to what's happening in developing nations, is eclipsing the growth rate of PC connectivity to the net. That's probably not a surprise to you. But what's particularly interesting is that smartphone sales in 2012 will sell more units than the And this is a dramatic transformation, because the principal way that we've been accessing interactive media has been through PC until the last few years. And this transition to mobile internet access is one of the major themes of disruption that's happening in media. It's going to be in addition to social, but it is, I think, as significant, if not more so, because it really screws with the business models of the incumbents. As Christian pointed out, about 2/3 of the global internet visit social networks now. I happen to believe, like the folks at Facebook, that social networking is a winner-take-all market, and that we will probably, we are seeing already, but that we will see Facebook as the overwhelming dominant, greater than 90% global market share of the principal mechanism that people are using or have used to build their social graph. Now, you may not you may not spend all of your time on Facebook, of course, but Facebook's already thought of that and allows you to take your graph with you to countless other places and sites, and soon they're letting you take other things with you, payments and things like that. But this is also a dramatic change to what's going on. But why is it dramatic? Because what do you do on social networks? When you're connected to friends and other interest groups, you start sharing content. And this is a dramatic change in the way we consume media. We did share media before it was interactive. We put things out of newspapers. The pass-along rate of magazines is often quoted by magazine publishers as a way to increase their rate base. But so sharing's not new, but it's become so much easier. Now we're sharing 7 billion, I think I'm probably, I don't have official statistics here, but I think I'm in the ballpark here. About 7 billion pieces of content, posts, are being shared on Facebook every week. What's happened? What's going on here? Well, we've entered a sharing economy. And what's so interesting about that is my background, watching up close what Napster was messaging. They were demonstrating that when media becomes linked, and the consumers of media also become linked, the first thing we start doing is sharing. And they were destroyed for that. And in the Facebook movie, Justin Timberlake will, Social Network. Justin Timberlake will remind you that, his character, Sean Parker, destroyed the music industry with Napster. They did, but I think the music industry took the complete wrong learning experience away from it. What they said was, people want to steal music, no one wants to pay for it. No, that's not what it was. People want to consume singles, and they want to share it. And so Facebook knows this, and this is a theme of the future of media. Take a look at some of the stats. Again, I'm probably under here on my Facebook estimations. I know they have more than 500 million users, and they're probably sharing more than 30 billion objects a month. Bitly, which is the largest link shortening service, does 40 million decodes, link clicks, this year. 40 billion pieces of content, and they're just the link sharing service. They're not seeing the entire forum of sharing activity. Twitter, about 160 million users now. They're doing about 90 million tweets a day. Not all tweets contain a link, but about 40% do. About 1 billion of these tweets a month. And these are just 3 examples of where this is happening. We know that LinkedIn has moved aggressively into embracing the sharing economy. MySpace, perhaps a little too late, and even Google. And this is just a few. There are literally hundreds more logos I could have put on the slide that are embracing the notion of connected user sharing. This is a meaningful change. We'll talk about why. So what's going on? Well, just to review, before you guys were old enough to use the internet, we were accessing it only through PCs. We didn't have mobile devices that were largely internet connected. So we were using computers, and we were using a web browser. You may not know what a web browser is. I appreciate you guys are probably younger, but there's important things that were happening when we used a web browser. First of all, the metaphor of consuming content was a page metaphor. And this is pretty typical when media moves from an old format to a new one. The first thing it does is replicate what it was used to before. right? Same thing with silent movies and radio, and we've seen this before. The first thing we did was we said, it's going to be a page. It's going to be just like a newspaper or magazine, and we're going to lay it out to look like a page. And we'll access it through PCs. That was the first mechanism for connecting. And the people who will create content will largely be institutions. As sort of 1996, 1997, the largest websites were not user-created, they were institutional created. And so what happened as that sort of mechanism of consuming internet content emerged was it created big value opportunities for a couple things. One, you needed a directory. You had to find out what was on the net. And Yahoo was first a directory, actually, before they were search, they were a directory, topical directory. And that means they were trying to organize the web into channels, which is a metaphor that we understood from some previous media. And pages massively increased the amount of pages produced. Now, I should have brought that graph of the number of pages created on the internet, but it didn't cost a whole lot of money to create pages, so we created lots of them. And we created a whole lot of extra inventory that we were having trouble monetizing with advertising, so CPMs plummeted. It's incredible amount of pages. And when CPMs plummeted, what people who tried to make money on the internet said was, well, how do we win the internet? Two things we need to do. One, we got to get traffic to us really cheap. So Google emerged as a great search engine, and people figured out how to do SEO really, really well, got really cheap traffic. And we have to have our cost of content be really, really low, too, because CPMs are $2. So we'll get, sorry?
You just say what that exactly is about?
CPM?
Yeah.
Cost per thousand. That's the way media is bought generally. I'm paying $2 per 1,000 pages. We have to get our costs down to create content. Well, that's how user-generated, the inspiration actually behind About.com, which just organized a whole bunch of other people's expertise, GeoCities, and ultimately user-generated content because the creators didn't have to do it. And that was sort of internet media 1.0. That's what happened. Well, what's going on now? Well, three big things have changed. The devices that we're increasingly using to consume media are mobile. Whole different thing. Small screens. I'm checking it sort of infrequently, but for moments at a time. I'm interrupting my personal conversations and relationships in life to do so, but I'm still doing that. and thanks to Facebook and its likes, updates are coming, are the content that I'm consuming. And it's being created by individuals. And this is really the most dramatic thing that happened in media in about 40 or 50 years. It wasn't making it interactive that has become so disruptive. It's the fact that it's become consumed on mobile, influenced and shared by social, and being consumed in real time. It's mobile social real time. These three storm trends coming together, just as you are graduating from college, is creating the largest wealth creation and disruption opportunity in media in decades. So, good timing.